What's going on, everyone? Dalt here with Lisi Parts in the Scrap Life Garage. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be making some progress on some miscellaneous stuff with the Audi today before it goes to the fabricator to get the front end and the doors finished. So we went ahead and made a trip up to North Jersey the other day and picked up a set of seats for it. We picked up the Recaro CS Sportsters, the GTs. So these are the cloth version. We headed up to Auto Couture, so shout out to them. Thank you for tracking down a set for us. They are very, very difficult to come by. So we are going to be getting these put into the car. We picked up the sliders and then also the planted brackets. And what we're going to have to do, though, is we are going to have to modify the planted brackets so they sit a little bit lower, since all three of us that are going to be driving this car are a little bit taller. So we also picked up a set of the Apr Formula Gt Mirrors that we're going to be mounting onto the side of the car. They actually came from an S2000. We kind of were going through figuring out what we might be able to use for it, and that was kind of the base that we wanted to use. It filled the space. We're also going to be going through and modifying the rear bumper. This is the actual OEM rear bumper for it. We're going to be working on modifying it to accept a set of custom taillights that we're going to have made for it. So one side I've already done, the other side is still yet to be done, so we're going to go ahead and show you guys the changes we're going to be making to it in order to get the taillights to work how we want to. We also have powder samples from Prismatic Powders. We're going to be ordering a roll cage for the car here, and we want to put it in our company colors. The car is already black, which is nice, and then we're also going to be matching the brakes to the roll cage. So we have a lot of miscellaneous stuff to do. We're going to see how much of it we can knock out before we have to take the car to drop it off to get the front end and the doors fabricated. So the rear bumper beam here, this is the factory support for the rear bumper cover. Is an excellent, right when we popped the bumper off, we were like, man, these openings here on the side will be awesome to fabricate some taillights for. And we're working with Black Cloud Battalion on setting up a set of taillights for it. We just have to do some modification to the bumper, then we're going to ship it down to them in order for them to go ahead and get the light fixtures put into this thing. So this is how it comes off the bumper. I'm relatively sure that these here were modified by Underground Racing in order for the exhaust and then the charge pipes to clear. Everything else that you see here is the factory openings. So this is an opening that was in the bumper when we pulled it off. As far as I know, it's a factory opening. I guess it's entirely possible that they, you know, when Underground had it off, they maybe clearing some stuff to pull some weight out of this thing. I'm not quite sure, but this is how we pulled it off. So what we ended up doing is what you can see on the other side here, where we wanted to make it so you could accept the taillight directly in from the back end, get rid of that bracket right there. These sections right here are actually going to be for the reverse lights, and then ultimately the tag is going to go underneath, and the tag lights will be right underneath. So that way this thing can be street legal. So this is what we actually ended up with for the progress right now, where you can see we went ahead, we came straight down and straight down here, and then what we're going to end up doing is making a piece that goes across the top right here to follow this same contour, because it has a really, really cool curve to it. And that's going to essentially box in the area along with these right here. That's going to box in the area, and then the tail light will be an actual like thin strip that's going to be right in this section right here. So it should look pretty cool. And then also we're going to end up boxing in the sides over here, so that way we can run some sort of side marker, which you have to have on the car for it to be street legal as well. So we are going to be modifying the side that we haven't yet in order to match it to the other side, and then when it goes up to Josh to get the all the other things done, the front end, the doors, all that, we're going to have him go ahead and weld the pieces on the top to finish boxing that in. So let's go ahead and make some progress on this thing. Alright, so you can see what we're trying to accomplish here. We got everything cut out now, and the only thing that's left to do is go ahead and grind down this lip. Luckily this floor gives us a nice point, but you can see there's like a raised lip, and then we have to do the same thing at the back there to make sure that it sits nice and flush, just like this side. So we're getting pretty close. Back to it. So, as you can see, we have this pretty much finished up to mirror the other side. And the only thing that's really important on them is making sure that it's actually symmetrical from side to side, so that way the two lights can be the same. And I think we're pretty darn close. So moving on, we're going to be working on the seats now. This is the seats that we picked up for the car. They are the Recaro Sportster GTs. Very, very nice seats. When Alex and I had the upholstery shop, we recovered a lot of these. Some of them for the company that we got them through, Auto Couture, up in North Jersey. If you're into the Euro scene, I'm sure you know who Auto Couture is. I mean, if you're in the car scene in general, I'm sure you know who Auto Couture is. They're a very, very big name. They do a lot of good quality work. So they were able to hook us up with what at the time right now appears to be the only full set of these in the country, which is why we went with the cloth option. It was really all we could get a hold of. And it's kind of funny because Recaro came out with a new name for this cloth, but it's basically just tweed, which is what came in the early 90s, like Ford trucks, and was in a lot of restoration. So these will be getting recovered at some point. But for the time being, they will work just fine for us. So what we are going to be working on is the seat rail. So right now the sliders are bolted up to it, and you can see where it's sitting in the car, which is the lowest that we can get it. So we picked up a set of planted mounts for it, and the problem with the planted mounts is that they have the added height. So we want to go ahead and get rid of that. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cutting off all 4 brackets, and then we're going to basically have to weld them in place so that way we can bolt this thing to the floor. Luckily this one is nice because this is already lined up with this bolt hole directly above it. So this piece will actually bolt directly to the car. All of these ones where we're looking on the outside, we're going to have to weld the pieces. And then one thing that's our primary concern is just strength, where you can see where this bolt hole is. So if I come around this side, you can see kind of how it lines up with this here, where we're going to have it come directly out off of the flat plate, and then we'll basically weld around the edge here, so we have a lot of surface area. So this will be a little bit thick, but as far as strength, it will work really, really good. This one here, we're going to do the same exact thing, but you can see that that one is already set up for it where the bolt hole lines up. So this will be relatively simple for us to go ahead and make sure that it will be strong enough, and we won't have to have any concerns about the strength in the surface area of the welds. Luckily the seat belt mount, this is in an area where the carpet actually dips down, so we won't have to do anything with that. You can see my pretty hilarious working table for right now. We don't have a lot of space in the shop with everything going on with our normal operations, so this is a set of damaged wheels that just came off a car that I'm going to use as my workbench. So let's go ahead, we're going to get this back in the car, get it marked up so we can keep everything lined up, and then we're going to go ahead and cut the brackets off and see what we can do. So we went ahead and relocated into the side unit, that way we can cut over here on the workbench, and I won't have to feel bad about my guys having to listen to me cut. But this is our side storage unit where we keep all the cars, and then have a nice convenient cutting table. So we're going to work over here, and then we'll head back over to where the Audi is in the other unit, so that way we can get this installed on the car and see how everything lines up, so on and so forth. So. So what seems like an eternity later, we finally have all of the pieces ground off, the mounts. If you have a set of planted seat mounts, rest assured that the welds that are holding those brackets on are more than adequate in you know, the unfortunate event that you were in an accident. So finally got it ground off. Had to make a trip to the hardware store to get more discs, but you can see the height difference. This is the passenger side, which is the same height as what it was before, and then obviously laying flat on the floor is the one that we have removed all the brackets from. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in the car, and you can kind of see how it's gonna mount. So this hole right here lines up with the very corner of, you can kind of see on this one, you see how that bolt hole goes right underneath. So what we can do is we can take this and we can line it up in that corner right there. You have bolt hole, and then we can kind of work everything else off of that. So it looks like it's going to sit essentially right up against the trans tunnel right there, which is fine. You can kind of see where that bolt is in relation. It's going to line up pretty close with that there. And then this is the side that we're going to go ahead and have to weld the brackets onto. So what we're going to end up doing, I did keep the brackets that I took off. I'm going to see if maybe I can go ahead and just reuse some of them. See if I can repurpose them. So like that one there, looks like I may be able to just cut it, and then like I said, we just have to kind of figure out how we're going to reinforce them to make sure there's plenty of surface area, so that way we don't have to worry about any sort of issue with a weld breaking or something like that in the event that this thing was in an accident, or just even under normal conditions. Obviously it's going to be pretty exposed to some serious forces, so we will see. But this is the end result of what we were going for. We got a little bit more work to do, and we're going to get to it. So it's decision time now. We have all the powder coat samples, and we're going to be going through and picking out what color we're going to be coating the cage and the brakes and whatever else might go on the car. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's just too dark.
Yeah, too dark.
Out of those two, that one's definitely the.
Put it against the black. Yeah, I mean, that looks pretty good to me.
That should be pretty good. Yeah, I mean, that one will do. Yeah, that's fine.
Alrighty, we got a winner. So now we're going to be making some headway on the side view mirrors. What we had done was we were trying to get a APR mirror with a factory base that would line up with those two bolt holes. So this actually is a set of S2000 APR mirrors, and they seem to measure the closest. We knew they were a little bit off. I already have the driver's side done over here, and it didn't quite line up, so we're going to have to drill one hole. But I think that the end result is pretty good, where it kind of covers that area. Now we have a fixed mirror to the car, so that way we are legal as far as road use goes. Funny enough, I ordered these, and then I realized up top there, we actually have a set on that S2000, so I was a little upset about that. But then I realized that the driver's side on that car is broken, so I would have had to anyway. So we already have the driver's side mounted. Basically, we just drill the hole, use the riv nut, and then the bottom one is actually the factory bolt hole on the car. So that way we're going to end up in the same spot on both sides. It'll be nice and symmetrical. So we're going to go ahead and do this side and get the mirrors all wrapped up. Alrighty, so after going through and making all the adjustments on them, you have to go through and tighten all this down so that this doesn't wobble around. And we'll go through, we still have to tighten that, but I think that using that bottom bolt hole worked out great because they look pretty pretty good as far as the symmetry goes. Obviously, like I said, they had a factory bolt hole that was lining everything up. So we're going to go through, get everything tightened up on them, and this section of the build should be done.